What's up, everyone? This is your host, Shanti Das of the Mibo Show. I am super excited about this season. It's been going so well. Shout out to our partners, Johnson& and Johnson, all of the incredible hip hop artists, because as you know, we've been celebrating season one with Hip Hop 50. Yes, on August 11th, our beloved hip hop turned 50. And there have been so many national and global celebrations. And of course, here at the Mibo Show, we certainly have been celebrating all things that we love hip hop, about the genre, the culture of hip hop, all the facets of it. And it's just been a real joy. And it's been truly a fun ride. And so today is going to be nothing less than that. Again, my name is Shanti Das. I am the host of the Mibo Show. And joining us today, we have TV personality and former TV host of the show that I know I certainly loved and watched all the time, Yo MTV Raps. Let's welcome Dr. Dré to the show. What's up, Dré?
Hey, what's happening, Shantae? It's been a long time since I spoke to you, but now we got the Zoom and we're trying to make it go through. I apologize for not being there visually, but because I'm a blind amputee and a type 2 diabetic, it works out for me too.
That's right. It is all good. And yes, Dre, it has been a long time. I was just looking at a picture not too long ago when I was doing one of my throwbacks on Instagram, and it was you, me, Usher, and Ed Lover when I brought Usher up to see you all, a young Usher, and now he is going to be performing at the Super Bowl. So how about that?
Now is the grown Usher.
Yeah.
You know, he made me want to leave the one I'm with, start a new relationship.
There you go.
I was confessing. But that's another part of the interview. I'm sorry, Shantae. Let me shut up and you ask the question.
No, I love it. You got all the lyrics and the jokes. I love it. I'm here for it all. Keep it coming. And also, I just want to introduce our subject matter expert today. Joining us, we have Avery Ince, who is the Vice President of Medical Affairs of the Cardiovascular Franchise at Johnson & Johnson. How are you, Avery?
I'm doing well. I am thrilled to be here. I cannot.
Hello, Avery. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you? It's great. It's great being on the show with you, and I can't believe it's Dr. Dré of Doctor Dré and Ed Lover. This is too much, man.
Yes, it is. Yo MTV Raps today. Dr. Dré, Ed Lover, Yo T Money, and we did it all because we love to do it all. That's how it works out. Keep it simple. Here we go.
So iconic, so iconic. So you know what? I'm going to jump right in so we can get into this incredibly important conversation for our community. So on today's episode, we're going to shine a light on diabetes and the complications that can form, including vision impairment and amputation, something that many people in the Black community often face. And we are humbled to hear Dr. Dré's journey today and support his continued recovery. I'd like to also read some stats before we get into the questions. So in 2018, African-American adults were 60% more likely than non-Hispanic white adults to be diagnosed with diabetes by a physician. In 2019, non-Hispanic Blacks were 2.5 times more likely to be hospitalized with diabetes and associated long-term complications than non-Hispanic whites. So let's start with you, Dr. Dré. Can you share with us when you first got diagnosed with diabetes?
I was first diagnosed with diabetes way back in the year 2007. It was unknown to me because I used to work at ESPN2. I did a show called Cold Pizza. I was the host of the DVD review section with people like Michael Strahan, Tiki Barber, Amani Tuma, and the great list of athletes goes on. The show eventually became First Take. And I used to do these reviews. I used to do these movie reviews. I used to go out and do all their interviews on the red carpets, like the Oscars, the Grammys, etc. And what would happen when I would go do these movie reviews, they would hand me a big bag of popcorn and they would say, "We want Coke or Diet Coke?" And I said, "Well, I'll take Diet Coke because that's better for you." Just to let you know, all soda's bad. It doesn't work. It's no good for your system. And I had to learn the hard way. So I was in my home and I had an upstairs and downstairs, and I recently had the carpet removed. And I was going upstairs to get my son and daughter for school. And I would always yell at them, "Don't go up and down the stairs without wearing slippers or sandals. Keep something on your feet." And old dad, being Mr. Dad, stepped on a carpet tack. And I thought it was just a little prick on my toe. And eventually as it got worse, and I put some neosporin on it, thinking that was healing it. And unfortunately, it actually became worse and infected. And when I went to the doctor, he said, "You know, you're diabetic." And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm never. How can I be diabetic? I'm in the greatest shape of my life." Oops. Only to find out, yes, I was a diabetic.
And so, Dre, let me ask you, and thank you for sharing that. So, once you got diagnosed, did they immediately put you on medication, or did they try to, um, give you instructions on healthy ways to cope through diet and exercise? What was that part of the journey like?
Well, that part of the journey was they started me with this thing called metformin, which
Okay.
I do not suggest for anyone. Do your research, get a better understanding. Metformin's not the thing to do. I then called a good friend of mine, the late great Dick Gregory, and told him, "Dick, they told me I got diabetes." Which then he cursed me out and said, "What is wrong with you? What did I tell you?" I said, "You're right, Dick, but what do I do?" And he gave me a series of things to start taking and working with, which actually started working better with my diabetes. Eventually, after they said, this infection in your toe is bad enough, we need to amputate it, I was very worried about that. And I had heard all the stories about diabetes amputations, but then I started learning the difference between type 1 and type 2. Type 2 is the one where you can actually affect it with your diet, your exercise, and change of lifestyle. And I began to do that. And you first have a big period of time of denial, denial, denial. What happened? How did this happen? And I realized that I was on a diet of soda and this other stuff that I just shouldn't have been eating
Mhm.
and drinking at the time, because I was always a very big water drinker.
Okay.
But I had to pay better attention to what I was doing. So in that, later on, my surgeon, who actually did the amputation of my left big toe, he said we should have never taken your toe, because we learned that your circulation is strong, and most people with diabetes, one or two, have poor circulation in their feet and in their legs. But they were kind of astonished about certain things that happened with me
Mhm.
that kind of changed their opinion about how to work with me. And I didn't want to end up with this diagnosis of having to take medication all the time. So I went out and I seek different advice from Dr. B. I was reaching out to holistic Dr. Sabi's family
Mhm.
and company, and trying to actually change my lifestyle to work better to heal my diabetes. Let's put it that. I don't like using the word heal because you're not supposed to, but actually treat and do a better job of my diabetes. After all those years, I've become a much better person with it. I've been able to work and control my diabetes much better. Although I have an ulcer on my left foot, the same thing. We are treating it. Things are getting better because I've moved on and understood what's necessary to do.
Thank you for that, Dre. I want to bring Avery into the conversation. Avery, can you talk about the risk factors for the African American community and why it's so important to manage our A1C numbers and watch what we eat, like Dr. Dre was saying, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. This is, Dr. Dre said something here that was really, it just caught my attention and really resonated with me. The idea that, you could sort of take control of things, uh, look at what you eat, and basically sort of manage the course of the disease. That resonates with me. Let me explain why. Right. So I'm just going to back up just a little bit, just to say a little bit about diabetes first. This is type 2 diabetes now. So the first thing is that every time you eat, your blood sugar goes up, right? The amount of sugar that's in your bloodstream rises. And that's true when you have soda that Dr. Dre was talking about. But it's true when you have popcorn, French fries, bread, rice, whatever. It goes in your mouth as something, but by the time it gets processed by your stomach and that food gets broken down and into your bloodstream, it's causing your blood sugar to rise. So that's step number one. Now, the thing is that when your blood sugar goes up, there's a potential danger associated with that. The issue is that if your blood sugar levels get too high, right? I mean, if your blood sugar gets to like a nice normal level, everything's fine. You have energy to go about your day. take a jog, go for a walk, whatever. But if your blood sugar levels get too high now, then that can be poisonous to the eyes, and that can be poisonous to the kidneys, and that can be poisonous to certain nerves in your body, in particular nerves in your feet, nerves in your legs, things like that. So that's what the danger is with having blood sugar that gets too high. And so to protect against that potential damage, what the body needs to do is basically keep blood sugar levels really well regulated. Not too low, not too high, right there, not too high, but right there in the right range, right? And in order to do that, what happens is that the body produces insulin. You have a pancreas, and it's right there in your abdominal cavity, and that pancreas can detect when the blood sugar levels are getting higher. And when that happens, the pancreas produces insulin, squirts it into the blood, and that lowers your blood sugar. So that's sort of how the whole system works, right? Now, one thing I want to say is that every now and again, it turns out that for some people, the insulin is not adequately lowering blood sugar. And I think that's one of the things that has happened here in Dr. Dre's story, right? So you have a lot of blood sugar coming in, a lot of sugar coming into the blood. Then the insulin is acting, but it's not quite lowering the blood sugar enough. And when that happens, the body goes into overdrive. It detects that the insulin isn't working properly. It churns out more and more. And so what I've described to you now is a situation in which over years, you have both high levels of sugar in the blood, and you also have high levels of insulin in the blood. And both of those things can result in problems. From too much sugar in the blood, you start getting damage to the eyes. You start getting damage to the kidneys, like I was describing before. From having too much insulin in the blood, you can start getting all kinds of cholesterol and fatty deposits beginning to sort of settle in the arteries of your heart, and that can lead to heart attack. Or you can have the same thing forming deposits in the leg, and that can lead to something called peripheral artery disease, and that can lead to amputation, and so on. So that's kind of how that story happens over time. And forgive me for that, but I wanted to mention that because when the question now comes back to what are the risk factors and what people can do, then that story is really important to understanding what can be done here, right? First of all, risk factors. If you are older than 45, then you are at a higher risk for having these things happen. And that is also true if you are, if you're overweight, or if you have a family history of diabetes. For sure, if you're African American, I think it's 14% of all adults in the US have diabetes, but that number is 11% for white adults, and it's 22% for African Americans, 22%,
Wow.
right? So on the basis of numbers like that, you can tell immediately being African American, being Black, that itself is a risk factor for having diabetes. And then finally, if you're a woman and you have a history of gestational diabetes during pregnancy, then that also increases your risk of diabetes. So those are the risk factors. And that whole tralala is so I could get to the point now. What's to be done? You can greatly reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes by eating a healthy diet, right? And by eating a healthy diet, I am talking, and I'm just going to summarize really quickly now, but I'm talking about a diet that is rich in vegetables and that is rich in fiber, in fruits and things like that. And what you don't want is a diet that's rich in things that are going to cause your blood sugar to rise really quickly. You know what those things are? Things like white rice, that makes it go right up there real fast. Things like breakfast cereal, Cheerios, real fast. White bread, blood sugar rises really quickly, right? So those kinds of things result in the whole story that I told you about before. And what you want to do is you want to eat a modest amount of those things, but you cannot overdo it on those kinds of things. Where you want to overdo it is in things that are fiber rich, like vegetables and like fruit. Those are the kinds of things that will cause your blood sugar levels to rise very slowly and therefore keep both your blood sugar and your insulin levels just about right.
That
Can
was
I jump in with you, Avery, for a quick
yeah,
second?
please.
Yes, sir.
Please do. I was
Let
gonna
me
bring you
jump
back
in.
in, Dre.
Avery, I want to applaud what you're saying, but I want to also do what I call people's reality, especially in people of color community, not just Black, people of Latino and Spanish descent, even people of Asian descent, people of color. Our diets are usually based on our comfort. That's what the biggest thing is. What Avery was saying is absolutely correct. Fruits and vegetables, and I want to say it this way, raw fruits and vegetables, meaning I call it G bombing because a good friend of mine, Dr. Furman, explained it to me. It's called greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. Let's
Mm,
do that again. It's greens,
mm,
beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. Greens are your lettuces. Now, I do not propose to do iceberg lettuce. Get yourself a bottle of water. Spinach, romaine, the darker the leaf, the more it should be in your consistent diet. Beans, very simple, very simple. Black beans, uh, red beans. Um, Beans are great in fiber. They just are, and great for your digestion. Onions, they're exactly what onions are. Peel an onion, put a slice on, enjoy your onions with it, what you have. Mushrooms, I love mushrooms. I always have mushrooms at least 2 or 3 times a week, always. Berries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, uh, what is it called? Blackberries, boysenberries. Berries are very good. And of course, seeds, chick seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds. All you gotta do is put a cup in your salad, cup with your food. You'd be very surprised. Big thing, do not mix your fruit and salad. It's not good. Keep them separate. This is what I've learned to be a better eater. Here's things about our diets. Anything in moderation, as Avery was saying, works. That's what keeps your sugar level balanced. I always drive my doctors, my endocrinologists crazy because my sugar levels will move around because of my amputation and my wounds. But then I get consistent. He goes, how do you do that? Because I know what I'm doing wrong. So I say, I call it have your one cheat day and have 6 days of doing the right thing. Because eating the right thing all the time is extremely difficult in our get up and go generation and mentality. How do you do that?
mm.
Nothing wrong with keeping a little bag of dried fruit in your pocket. I always open up with an orange or a green apple, not red apples. It's a different um, benefit to you for green apples. It's so many simple things that are just around you that when you change your diet like that, your taste buds will change. Increase your water twofold. So if you're drinking 1 bottle of 16-ounce water, make it 3 bottles of 16-ounce water a day. Just try it. I'm also a huge proponent of okra water. Okra, Dr. Dre, that's nasty. It's slimy. No, it's not. It's one of the best things you can take being a type 2 diabetic. It balances your sugar and it balances your, now I say it like this, digestion and how you expel what you're eating. That's one of the biggest things that people don't talk about when we talk about type 2 diabetes is if you control your digestion and what you expel, and some people say, oh, well, if you're diabetic too, you have to always go to the bathroom. You always run into the bathroom. The more you increase your water, the more it's going to expel the poisons you take in. And because most of our communities, especially low-income communities, are surrounded with the wrong poisonous food. Even if you walk into a grocery store, let me help you. If you're going down the aisle, like Avery was saying, and you're picking up Cheerios, Frosted Flakes, oh my goodness, Super Sugar Smack, my kids love this. There's a reason they love it. The sugar is driving them nutty. Go to the produce section and enjoy yourself. Grab yourself some carrots. Grab yourself some tomatoes, dark leafy greens. Grab yourself some natural fruit. And the reason I say not fruit, not cooked vegetables, because really we're supposed to be, because we're herbivores. If your teeth are flat and they're not sharp, We're supposed to be eating vegetables and fruit as a majority. I always eat vegetables and fruit every day. I just do, whether it's an orange, green apple, whatever it can be. Balance is the key. Find out what you like the most and move towards that direction. So if you want to slip and say, yo, I'm going to get some French fries. Oh, I'm going to get this. I'm going to have that. Balance it out with the fruit. Balance it out with a vegetable. I'll
Absolutely.
go to a Chinese restaurant and I get what they call um, steamed vegetable dumplings. People are
Okay.
like, steamed vegetable dumpling? What is that? It's vegetables in a dumpling and it's steamed. It's much better for you.
Thank you. Thank
How
you.
do you
Thank you.
how do you balance? Like some people say, well, I'm going to go hardcore vegetarian and vegan because I know that's going to work. With some people it will, some people it won't. Just like Avery was saying about insulin. Insulin dependency is what you strive to get off of. And my good friend Dick Gregory has a book about food that you should eat to continue your life. And he breaks down everything that you can actually do it. The problem in America is that they raise the prices on the food that's good for you and then decrease the prices on the food that's bad. My good friend Dr. B told me one day, Dr. Dré, this is while I was blind, it was a very funny story. I want you to go in the grocery store and walk down the aisle and I want you to pick something off the shelf. Just pick it and read it to me. I said, B, I can't read. Well, grab somebody and have them read it to me. And when you turn to the ingredients and you realize all the chemicals that they put in food, all the chemicals, like when he was saying white bread is starched and it's designed to remove all the things that are good for you when it comes to fiber
Mhm.
and dark wheat bread.
Mhm.
And I mean, everybody uses all different things, but I'm trying to keep things simple. So I said, so this bag of box of rice I shouldn't get. He said, no, Dr. Dré, I want you to walk around to the produce section. So I walked to the produce section. He said, get to see all that? I said, B, I can't see anything. Well, touch all of that. Yeah, you can have everything there. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you, Dre. Thank you. Oh my gosh, such great information from Avery and Dr. Dre. And I want to just quickly go back to when you had the experience of unfortunately having one of your limbs amputated. I want to read a quick blurb. Close to 140,000 diabetes related amputations occur every year in the USA, and structural inequality leads to Black people being 4 times more likely to have an amputation than white people. And so, going back to you, Dr. Drake, can you walk us through, like, what was going through your mind? And I want to make sure we understand which parts of your body were amputated. Was it only one toe? Was it anything else? Can you talk us through that? And then what was your mental psyche like having to go through that?
Okay, simple and plain. I lost my right ankle and foot
Mhm.
because I was going out with some friends and I was in my home and I walked by a stair that I normally mess with and I fell down a flight of stairs.
Mhm.
My right ankle got hooked on this part of the railing and twisted it really bad. And I was laughing about it because I had my shoe on, it was tied tight. And I stood back up on it and I didn't feel like the pain because I had a thing that was called Charcot in my ankles. So I went to my podiatrist. I had an appointment, matter of fact, 2 days later. And she took x-rays. And at that time, the pandemic was just starting. So we were trying to say, we didn't really want to go to the hospital because no one knew what the pandemic was about or what it was going to be out. So they gave me antibiotics because
Mhm.
when they did the x-ray, they didn't see anything really wrong, but there was an infection brewing under there. And by about the 4th week, after me going back and having all these uh, um, antibiotics, they said, no, you need to go in. And they're going to tell you you're going to have, um, what's it called? COVID, and, which is what was. And I didn't have COVID for real. So the doctor said, no, we have to take this because your leg can get septic and this and the other. So when you say what was my mental position with that, I said, I believe in the creator, the master planner, the Lord above, and the spirits above. There's a reason for everything.
Mhm.
Not an excuse, facts. Take this, learn, get the prosthetic, and be better. Work better, be smarter. And that's what I did. My mental state always, even with my toe, when the doctor had come back later and said, we should have really just hit you with a lot of antibiotics because we're looking how you heal.
Mhm.
The doctor that actually amputated my leg said the same thing. He said, I didn't realize how well your blood flows. I said, you needed to talk to the other doctor. We could have just hit you with a bunch of antibiotics and it probably would have gone away.
Mm.
But you know what? I believe in the creator, the master planner, the Lord above, and everybody's here for a reason. Everything that happens is for the bigger plan. I don't suggest to go through it because maybe I'm the example that will help and bring those numbers down. So working with a person like Avery and yourself, Shante, that's my major goal and mission. That's why I started the Dr. Dré Victory Foundation, so that we can help people with disabilities and special needs and bring greater awareness and accessibility to them so people can see it. So I'm launching my first, I call it Podbot, not podcast,
Mhm.
and it's called Dr. Dre's Confessions of a Food Addict. And I
Mm.
would love to get Avery on and Shante on. And what we do is it's not long talks. It's we take one food at a time and we break it down. And we say what this food does to you, especially in communities of color,
Mm.
because we have soul food that was never made for soul. That food was created and designed for our survival. Because when you go back in history,
Yes.
based on our enslavement and what the masters threw at us, they threw anything that they wouldn't eat to the table. And those families had to feed and create and be creative of what to eat. So when you talk about come Thanksgiving, you get the big pig on the table and you get yourself some chitlins and you get yourself some ribs and you get yourself all that stuff. No good. I'll even go as far as turkey. Baked turkey is really no good for you because there's a lot of things in turkey chemically that just doesn't work well in the human anatomy. Even chicken, beef, even the pork. We all know pork. If you're Muslim, you ain't gonna eat no pork. Everything is based on moderation. But we eat those things at those holiday seasons because that's why we bring our families together, because that's a good, strong meal everybody can get. And back in those days, it was also the least expensive meal.
Mhm.
So you can get a big turkey and feed a family of 25 if it's big enough. You know, your mom can eat, make ribs. You can have pig's feet. You can have all those things. But then what it chemically breaks down, like Avery was saying, what it does to us. Our explosion of type 2 diabetes and diabetes happened after World War II in the nation.
Mm.
Why? Because the people came back and they were trying to find ways to feed families. And what was it doing? So when the explosion of the fast food restaurants happened, and I'm not going to point fingers at McDonald's, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, you name it, we all rolled with it. Because don't you find it amazing that people would stand online for a chicken sandwich from Popeyes? People do that because of what it tastes like. And it all comes down to corn and sugar.
Mm.
Sugar's our biggest enemy. The
Mm.
moment we start fighting the sugar in our diets, because most of the sugar you get doesn't usually come from a soda or something like that. And don't get me wrong, folks, all those flavored water drinks and all that stuff, it's nothing but different types of sugar, different types of chemicals. Water that you pick up the bottle and says the ingredients is zero, it's water. That's the water you should be drinking.
Mhm.
And some people don't want to drink that because they need a little fizz, they need a little taste. Squeeze a lemon,
That's
squeeze
right.
an orange,
Yeah,
put
lemons
a
are great.
blueberry in there, shake it around. But for me, I drink okra water twice a day. Why? Because I know it helps me. And it's what made me maintain my health as long as I have. So and I have to say that we've lost so many great people that I worked with and that I love. Big rest in power to DJ Mark, the 45 King. Uh, rest in power, Prince Marky D. Rest in power, Biz Markie, and the
Mm.
list goes on and on and on. Our
So
goal in
many
the
of our
next
hip
10
hop legends we've
years,
lost, to your point. So many.
yes, but my thing is we have to turn it around. So I may have had these debilitating situations, but I still exercise, I still walk, and I cheat. And then I go, nope, you got to go do this. You got to push this well. My A1C is between 8 and 7. My last blood work was 123. I focus on those things, but you also have to find ways to live and keep it in your mental. A lot of your health and wellness comes between your ears first,
Mm-hmm.
your eyes, your taste. Because when you start really eating well, if you decide to eat something that's wrong, your body will flush it out of you in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It really will. If I sit there and say, well, I'm gonna go get this, and I'm gonna do this, I'll come home and my body will like, hey, you shouldn't have had that. Why did you eat that? Because my body can't take it anymore. My digestive tracts can't take it anymore. And I've had my colonoscopies. And the fun part of having a colonoscopy is when all the doctors are looking at you, go, oh, this is going to be a bad one. And when I woke up, he said, no, we'll see you in 5 years. I said, 5 years? He said, you're clean as a whistle. Why? Because I practice G-bombing all the time.
Yeah.
Greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. It just works. And when you convert your diet to that, and I don't even like using the word diet, when you convert your intake to healthier choices, your body will reject the nasty ones. Everyone likes a good taste of a burger, French fries, a shake. It's great. Have one.
That's right.
I'm not the one who goes, oh, no, don't have any. Have one and get it out your system. I do that around my
Hey,
friends all the time.
I want to bring Avery back into the conversation real quick, Dré.
Please, Avery, interrupt me, please.
No, I mean everything you're saying is spot on, and your journey is.
But Avery's the expert. Let me shut up. Go, Avery.
No. That's not how we're doing this. No, you are an expert from a lived experience perspective.
That's right.
And so no.
True.
No.
But I enjoy his facts.
Because you can't have the doctors without the patients. Okay, so
true.
You are our primary focus. I did want to bring Avery back in just before we got off of the subject of amputation and moved on. Did you have anything that you wanted to add around amputation, Avery?
I will. But if I could just, Dr. Dré was just saying dropping some knowledge there, some really important things. There was a point a couple of minutes back when Dr. Dré was talking about the explosion of diabetes since World War II. I just want to say something about that.
Okay.
So I'm in my mid to late 50s now. So when I was born, the prevalence of type 2 diabetes in the US was about 1% of adults.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time I got to grade school, it was about 2%. Then when I was in high school, it was like about 3 to 4%. And then when I was in college, it was about 5%. And then when I was in med school, it was about 7%. And now fast forward to where we are now. I've been out of med school for, about almost 25 years, And now it's 14%. So in this time, it's gone from 1% to 14%. And the reason that I wanted to say that is because there are some people who are sort of stuck in a language about diabetes, it's my genes, all this other stuff. Listen, you don't have that picture I just talked about there and that Dr. Dré talked about before, the explosion since World War II. You don't go from 1% to 14% over the course of my lifetime, and I still have some left, unless the issue is an environmental issue. This is, Dr. Dré's telling us about G-bombing, and there's a lot that we can do to control whether we get sort of swept up in this diabetes tsunami or not. And so anyway, I love the point that Dr. Dré was making there. I just wanted to highlight that bit before circling back to the amputation bit.
Absolutely.
On amputation, I want to say this. There are approximately maybe about 180,000 to 200,000 amputations of the lower extremity in the US every year. So this is the leg either above the knee or below the knee, or sometimes you have sort of like a partial foot, or sometimes you'll have a toe or multiple toes. All of these are amputations, are all bad news. They all change people's lives. And I would say that there are about 180,000 to 200,000 of those in the US every year. And which means that there are approximately 500 per day, each day, every day, 500, right? And here's an interesting thing. About 60 to 70% of those amputations are happening in people who have diabetes. But about 30 to 40% of them are happening in people who have something called peripheral artery disease. PAD, peripheral
Yeah.
artery disease. I wanted to mention it because this is a thing that J&J is doing. Everybody knows, I think large numbers of people know that there's a connection between diabetes and amputation. And that if your diabetes is well controlled, then amputation is one of the bad places that story could go, okay? But in my experience, next to nobody knows about peripheral artery disease leading to such a very large number of amputations. I wanted to mention it here because my view is that diabetes, which is very prevalent amongst African Americans, and PAD, peripheral artery disease, which is also very prevalent amongst African Americans, it's important for our communities to know about this, because if you know that it's a thing that's out there, then there are things you can do to prevent, there are things you can do to screen, and then, you know, treat before things get out of control. PAD, let me just say something really quickly on this. Peripheral artery disease, this is when the blood vessels that basically take blood from your heart down to your thighs, down to your calves, down to your ankles, down to your feet and toes. Those blood vessels, which are arteries, when those blood vessels begin to get blocked up with plaque, like, you know, cholesterol plaque or other types of plaque, then the blood vessels begin to narrow and you have a reduced amount of blood that's actually getting through to the foot, to the ankle, to the, you know, what have you. When that happens, the tissue down there begins to get damaged because of oxygen debt. And then the result of that can be amputation over years. Peripheral artery disease, that's when the large arteries in your thighs and your calves start getting blocked and they reduce blood flow. That's disease number 2. Disease number 1, diabetes. Diabetes can result in something called microvascular disease. Very, very small blood vessels all the way down in the feet and toes, all the way down. Very tiny ones. Those get damaged in a way that the oxygen doesn't get properly delivered to where it needs to go down there. And then you can have a similar problem. In fact, here's what happens often. You'll have perhaps microvascular disease way down in the toes from diabetes, or you might have peripheral artery disease higher up in the big vessels, and then you stub your foot on, you step on a tack, you step on a nail, or you have an accident on the staircase and you get a cut around your ankle or something like that. And something happens like that, and the wound that is caused as a consequence of that accident, it doesn't heal quickly. The reason it doesn't heal quickly is because you need to have good blood flow, taking to that wound all the stuff in the blood that makes healing happen fast, all right? When you have diminished blood flow, either because of microvascular disease all the way down in the feet and toes, or because of peripheral artery disease in the bigger vessels, if you have not enough blood getting down there, then you have slow wound healing. And then with slow wound healing, you can begin to get infections. And then once you have bacteria and other badness like that, that's causing an infection, if that gets into the bloodstream, it can spread and it can begin to cause big problems up to and including death otherwise. And so sometimes physicians will make a decision, which is, my God, this infection down here, it looks pretty bad. The bad news is that if this gets out of control, it could spread and it could, in the end, kill you. The better news is that if I remove this toe, then I can remove all the infection and prevent spread, and I can save the life. That sort is a very, very difficult conversation, series of choices. I mean, that's a terrible situation to be in. Something that interests me about Dr. Dre's story was that at some point, clinicians said to him, wow, if I had known you had such good blood flow, then maybe we wouldn't have done this. Look, I'm far away from the story and I don't know all the details, but to me, what that sounds like is the big vessels up top, the big vessels in the thighs and the arteries were nice and open. And so that means that there was some reasonable possibility that there'd be good blood flow coming down to the wound that he had around his ankle. And so sometimes what you can do is kind of you remove some tissue. You don't have to, you can remove some tissue there and create a wound and then that wound will heal properly because it has good blood flow. It seems like that might have been a possibility. But the reason I said all of this, right, is you asked me what I want to say about amputation. I want to say this. I want to say that there are two principal causes of amputation. One is diabetes, the other is peripheral artery disease. On the diabetes front, I've already said that eating carefully in ways that Dr. Dré has described, that's very important. But then also, if you have risk factors, you're African American, you're over 45, you're overweight, you have high blood pressure, these kinds of things. If you have risk factors, then it's important to get screened. Just get screened, have a blood sugar test, your blood sugar level tested. That,
At least, Avery, let me jump in real quick with you.
Yes, sir.
At least see your primary doctor and an endocrinologist 4 times a year, minimum. And let me be clear about something, because I kind of make it seem light about, oh, I lost a toe, I lost a foot. Oh, it's okay, but I'm still doing great. I would change all of that if I paid better attention, as Avery said.
Yeah, that was one of my questions to you, Dré, because we're coming up on our time here, and I'm glad you jumped into that. First of all, Avery, thank you. That was such incredible information.
Let me finish this real quick, Shante, and then let me
Yep.
go to questions.
Yep.
Because I want people to understand, I do not take my condition lightly at all. I have kids. I have a daughter that wants to kill me, in a fashion. Dad, you got to do better. You got to do better. My son, you got to do better. You got to. Everyone in my family, friends, and even enemies. Dré, we want to see you around here a long time. So when great legends pass away, my phone rings off the. Are you okay? I'm fine. Okay. So I do stay very abreast of what I'm doing. And that's why I use the example. Yes, we do cheat. You do, because it's just human nature. It's a psyche thing. But I've learned how to balance it better with better nutrition, better thoughts. And when I do, I go, oh, I got to double down harder. Oh, I got to do this. I got to change that. That's why I'm doing Confessions of a Food Addict, Dr. Dré. And I would love Avery to jump on and assist. Johnson, whoever wants to come on, Shante, please. Why? Because that's where the explosion from World War II to present day happened, because we weren't getting information. We were just doing. And the more we became a very work, both parents working, how can I get food? Oh, I'll stop by this place. I'll stop by that place. Oh, I'll grab this. This will be okay. This will be okay. But when we were eating prior to that, not that it was all perfect prior to World War II, our resources of nutrition were much different. We didn't have huge supermarkets the way we do today. That's what I'm saying. So if you're in a supermarket and you're buying canned goods, boxed goods, please put it down. Please go to the produce section. Please reduce. Just because there's a fry maker doesn't mean you have to make your food fried all the time.
Let me ask a question, because y'all are giving so much great information, but I hadn't gotten to most of the questions I wanted to ask y'all, but we're getting to a lot of them through just some of the wonderful dialogue. Dré, we didn't get a chance to talk about you being legally blind now. If it's okay, if I can ask you, was that a direct result of your diabetes diagnosis? And you already answered,
yes,
what
yes,
kind of things.
yes, yes.
So I have one last question after this, but if you could just answer that, that'd be great.
Yes, yes, and all above. Yes, it happened very slowly, like Avery described, and I didn't know what it was. I started seeing wavy lines, trying to figure it out, and I was driving a car. I was behind the wheel of a car till I got to a point. I said, I can't do this. Something's not right. But what happened with my sight, and it happens to this day, my vision pops back in and out. My optometrist said, how do you do that? I said, I don't know why. It just does. I can be sitting in a car driving, and all of a sudden I see everything in color.
Oh,
like
wow.
all the way around me. Can I explain it? No.
Wow.
But if as well as I get to know Avery, he may be able to help and say, well, how does that work? It just does. I used to just see shadows. Sometimes I just go totally black. That's when I know I'm doing and eating the wrong thing. So I change. And as that changes, as that A1C comes further down, as my blood sugar comes further down, it's like my eyesight, it flickers back in. So can I correct it? Absolutely, because my daughter's going to kill me if I don't. But I say that in just because I want people, the reason I speak jovially about things and positively, because people take the laugh better than they take the doom part. So I say, this is the doom. Use me as the example of what you shouldn't do, but then use me as the example of what you can change. Because type 2 diabetes, and I want to be clear about that, we can service and not just treat. We can change that disease and behavior in us. Type 1 is totally different, totally different. And now I've become not an expert because I'm still a student. And I want to thank Avery for consistently letting people know. But I want to ask him one real quick question, and Shante, jump in. Does PAD also, is that affected from smoking too?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Thank you.
The PAD, thank you for the opening. I promise I'll do this very quickly. PAD is definitely affected by smoking. And here are some things I wanted to say about PAD. Diabetes, we covered some things. I want for this audience to know as well that PAD, which is peripheral artery disease, which is a blockage of some of the big vessels in the thighs and in the calves, rather than the tiniest vessels all the way down in the toes and the feet. PAD is responsible for 30–40% of all these amputations, and we can't take our eye off the ball there. And here's what you should know about PAD. You should know that if you are walking and you have cramps, some pains in the thighs or in the calves, that could be PAD. You walk, it starts getting crampy or starts burning a bit. You stop, you let it cool off, and then you walk back from your mailbox to the house or whatever. If that's a part of your story, that could be PAD. If you're in the living room chair and instead of walking into the kitchen, you have everybody bring you your drink or whatever, it could be that you stopped walking because all of the burning from PAD. If you have hair on the thighs or what have you, but there's a hairless area down there by your ankles or in your calves, that could be because of PAD, numbness, etc. So, but it turns out also that about 40% of people who have PAD have no symptoms whatsoever. So what this means is, like those folks who have risk factors for diabetes who need to get their blood sugar checked, so too, if you're African American, if you're over the age of 60, if you have somebody who's had an amputation in your family, and that is a lot of people of color, right? If any of these things is true, then here's what you need to do. The next time you are in your doctor's office, you take your shoes off and you take your socks off. And when the doctor comes into the room or the nurse or whomever, you say, listen, I have risk factors for diabetes and I have risk factors for PAD that I heard a little about recently. Can you take a look at my feet? Can you please take a look at my feet? Because both diabetics need their feet looked at all the time, and so do people with PAD. And when the doctor or the nurse practitioner looks at your feet, they may see discolored skin, and that could be a sign of PAD, or they may see that there's not as much hair down there as there used to be, and that could be a sign of PAD. Or they might feel your pulses, and they might find the pulses are a little bit weak as opposed to the pulses of the wrist, which are nice and strong. There are a bunch of things that could happen that might make them think, oh my gosh, I might be seeing diabetes, or I might be seeing PAD, a wound, a slowly healing wound. So I would say that this is something people can do. Get in the doctor's office, say, hey, I heard about PAD. I understand that caused a lot of amputations. Should I be concerned about this? I have some of the risk factors. Take a look at my feet. And that's a call to action.
Before you take your socks and shoes off, wash your feet when you go to the doctor's office. Don't go in there with funky feet
you
and making them
gotta do
touch
that.
funky feet. That's not cool. There's nothing cool about funky feet. You can't treat that with
And
some soap
there
and
is
water.
the Dr. Dre from Yo MTV Raps that we love so dearly.
That's right. That's
Well,
right.
I just
Hey,
want
can I
to
mention?
say, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, it's going to take 5 seconds. The reason I'm talking about this now is because Johnson & Johnson has a big program called Save Legs,
Okay.
Change Lives.
Oh, awesome.
Save Legs, Change Lives, where we are out there, people like myself and other physicians are out there in the community speaking in health and wellness centers and Black churches on Sunday mornings and afternoons, talking about these things, talking about PAD, talking about the things you need to do. to keep your limbs attached to your body. And we're doing free screenings in the community for PAD and things like that. So Johnson & Johnson, save legs, change lives. Get to the internet, take a look at it. We want more people
Avery,
talking about this.
That's
Yes,
awesome.
sir.
Avery, how can I be
Great
of
work,
service?
Johnson and Johnson.
How can I be of service to you and Johnson and Johnson with this? I think I can work with you if Shantae allows me, because that's Shantae's in charge. I'm just here doing what she's asking.
No, we
Uh,
certainly. I'll definitely talk to you. I certainly know that our friends and partners at Johnson and Johnson and Avery and his team, as he mentioned, are doing incredible work in the communities. And so, perhaps there are times where they need people with lived experiences. So just know, Dr.
That's
Dré,
right.
I will be calling you. I will be connecting you. We couldn't be more grateful, Dre, on a very serious note, for you being very vulnerable and transparent about the journey with diabetes, with amputation, now with being legally blind. I know you mentioned a lot, like you said, in a joking
but
way.
there is hope.
No, but
Shantae,
I'm
I
just
want
saying.
people to
But
understand
now let
there
me
is
finish,
hope.
brother. Let me finish giving you your
Go
flowers.
ahead.
Hold on, let me finish. You mentioned jokingly, but I love the way that you share it with us, and it does make it more palatable and easy for people to talk about, because those are very serious symptoms and a serious diagnosis. And certainly so many people, suffer from type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, as well as amputation, and everything that y'all said, from what you need to eat, thinking really strategic about when you go into the grocery stores and you go into those aisles and you pick up fruit versus, picking up, some chips. And so we just want people to be here, especially our folks in the hip hop community. As Dr. Dré said, we've lost a lot of people. We want to cut those numbers down so people can be living in hip hop for the next 50 years. So before we close out, gentlemen, because our time has come, but I could continue talking because it's just so great, so much great information being shared. And I hope everyone will reshare this episode of the Mibo Show because it's so very important. I have to ask this question before we close out of the show. Dr. Dré, when did you first fall in love with hip hop?
When did I first fall in love with hip hop? Well, I have a challenging thing to say about that. I'm going to keep it real brief.
Okay.
I am not certain that hip hop is 50 years old. I will go with what has been stated and said from the Cool Herc part of it. But for me, I fell in love with hip hop, and I'll change that. I fell in love with rap music. From King Tim III, the Fatback Band, to many MCs that were around me, the Gangster Rock MCs, Rapper G and Company. I fell in love with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, the Cold Crush Brothers, Spoonie G, the Treacherous Three. I fell in love with rap music, and hip hop was the culture. And Africa Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation, from before there was just Rappers Delight, that's what I'm saying, rappers. There was Planet Rock. Before there was that, there was King Tim III. And people try to, re-slice it up. Well, that wasn't really a rap record. Yes, it was. Because when I DJ'd in those parks and you dropped, do it for me, I'll do it for you. Boom, boom, doom, 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 doom. It's King Tim III, and I'll let you know. We were in love with that. DJ Hollywood. Of course, the king of rap himself, Kurtis Blow, from Run DMC, the Beastie Boys, Houdini. The list goes on and on and on. And because I was so blessed to be a part from its earliest invention, and my crew at WBAU at Adelphi University, Harry Allen, I got to ask him, Mr. Bill Stephanie, and of course my partner Carlton Ridenhour, AKA Chucky D, Chuck D, Public Enemy fame.
Yes.
For me, I always was in love with rap music and hip hop. Even when James Brown said, "It's the big payback. I gotta rock the floor." Rap music and hip hop has been a part of my life, from Marvin Gaye to the Earth, Wind and Fire, the Commodores, the Jackson 5, you name it. Always been in love with hip hop culture and rap music. Just me, just the way I've been.
Thank you, Dr. Dré, and thank you for all of your many contributions of all those incredible interviews, and whether it was on the radio or on MTV, all that you did at Hot 97. We're just so grateful for you, and you are You are hip hop. You are the culture.
Thank you for the blessing. And if you need me now to do part 2 or 3, I am willing,
Listen,
able,
I
and
got you on speed dial now. Don't worry. I'm gonna be calling you. We're gonna be
but
connecting you with Johnson and
let me ask you a
Johnson.
question. Have
Yeah,
I ever not answered you?
you have not, and I appreciate that, brother, and I respect you tremendously. You always answer my texts,
Oh,
my
oh,
call, and I'm very grateful.
all I'm asking is, Avery, if you need me, I am not that far away.
We got
And
I
you.
I'm
really
always
appreciate it.
willing to help, do. And the reason being, because as I said before, because of the explosion after World War II and all the subsequent wars up into 2023, I turned 60 this year. My
Hmm.
next phase of this life is to actually help more people than I ever did discovering hip hop. Now it's discover health, hip hop, awareness, and as Avery said, don't lose the limb. And if you did, I want to show you how you can live with and go further. All you got to do is change simple things,
Amen.
simple things.
Amen.
And that's why Dick Gregory was a good friend of mine from back in the day. I still have him cursing me out on the phone, talking about, why did you do that to yourself? You know all you do is call me. And he was right. I love him. And Sante, love you so much. And thank you for
Love
this
you too.
opportunity to
I
speak.
do want to give Avery a chance too to tell us when he fell in love with hip hop. If you can
Oh,
really
please,
Oh,
Avery.
close out.
the
I know,
I
brother.
love.
I know we about the same age. I know you listen to a little bit now.
Absolutely. So you know what? I love the answer Dr. Dre gave because he went into hip hop and back, and not just rap. You know what? I was living in Trinidad in the mid 1970s, so I was a kid in Trinidad. So for me, the first exposure to rap music that happened. That was all about Curtis Blow and Sugar Hill and sort of the classic stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I love the answer that Dr. Dre gave because yeah, no, Africa Mambata and all that for sure. That had been happening for me before. To say nothing of Motown and all that good stuff. Um, but I would say I was deep in by the time we got into much later on when it was all about PE and Tribe. I was deep in then. But the very beginnings for me of rap, anyhow, were Sugar Hill and Curtis Blow. Yeah,
Awesome.
Wait,
I
selector,
want to say
wait, rewind, rewind. I'm a Jamaican too. So you definitely got to go into dancehall, Bob Marley,
that's right.
reggae music, dancehall. Uh, don't let me go to Super Cat. Don't let me go to so many of those great artists that contributed heavily in hip hop and in rap music. Believe it or not, so many have been a part. That's why it's such a great, beautiful culture, music. And I would have never met Sade.
Yes, that's right. Well, I am grateful. Again, I am your host, Shanti Das of the Mibo Show. MI for mind, BO for body. And this has been such a powerful episode on diabetes, amputation, and providing healthy ways that we can continue to heal not only the hip hop culture, but the Black culture and the population at large. I want to thank again TV personality, radio host Dr. Dré from Yo MTV Raps. I want to thank Avery Ince and Johnson and Johnson. I ask you all to share this information, to listen to the podcast. Check us out on YouTube, all the audio platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartMedia, so many others. And please rate and subscribe to the show. And just make sure you take care of your mind and body. Peace out, everyone. God bless.